Hey everyone, welcome back to our Python beginner series. Today we'll build a simple calculator app to learn about Python functions, operators, and basic error handling. Let's go ahead and dive on in. If you haven't already installed and set up Python and Visual Studio Code, I suggest you check out the previous video in this series. We're going to create a new file here, and you can choose to create the new Python file. Otherwise, I'm just going to call mine calculator app.py, that file extension for Python projects. I'm going to go ahead and save it in my Python folder. Functions help us organize our code into reusable blocks. Let's go ahead and define a function for each basic calculator operation. So the first one we'll do is for addition. So we can use the def keyword and then give the function a name. So I'm going to call this one add. And then we can provide it with arguments. So we can use the brackets to say, okay, when we're adding, are we, supplying or requiring any data within the arguments? In this case, I'm going to have an X value, and I'm also going to be having a Y value. So I'm going to be having two numbers that are required. We're then going to use the colon. And then on the next line, we're going to go ahead and use the return keyword. And this is going to return a value. Well, what value do we want to return? With addition, we want to take the first number, in this case represented by X, and we want to add it to the second value, in this case, Y. We then go to another line and define another function. So for this one, let's go ahead and do subtract. So we're going to be minusing things. So we're also going to have the X and the Y value. We're going to add our colon, and this time we're going to be returning the X minus Y. So it's totally fine if we have these values that we're going to be passed later on to be the same as the addition or the subtraction. Let's also do multiplication. So let's call this one multiply. It's going to have that X value, that Y value. We'll return the X, and for multiplication, you can use Shift 8 on your keyboard for the asterisk. We can't really use the kind of X that most people use for multiplication here. And then let's also do division as well. So we'll call this one divide. So X, Y, our colon, and we'll return X, and we're going to do the slash here, Y. So something you might be thinking about right now is, well, what if we have a case where we're dividing by 0? Our computer can't compute that, nor can our brains. So how can we handle those weird error cases in the case of dividing by 0? Well, what we can do is before returning the X and Y, we can use an if statement. In this case, if Y equals 0. So if Y is exactly equal to 0, we can go ahead and handle that. We can then use a return. And in this case, it's also a good idea to kind of offer like an error statement. You can even show this to a user in a different way. And let's just go ahead and give them a string that says error cannot divide by 0. So this if statement is going to catch any of those weird errors that might happen. And then, as long as we're not dividing by 0, we will still properly return the division number. Next, we'll get user input for numbers and the operation they want to perform. So we can do this by creating a series of print statements that are going to go to the console. The first one we can do is select operation, so they are aware of what they can do. On the next line, let's go ahead and print again. And let's give them option 1, which would be to add. We can then give them the second option, so 2, we'd say subtract. Let's go ahead and repeat this for the rest of our statements. So 3 would be multiply. And then number 4 would be divide. Okay, and now let's define the user's choice. So let's just define that as a variable called choice. You can call it whatever you like. I think that just makes sense. And this is going to be based off their input. And we'll prompt them with the enter your choice. And although they're numbered, it's still probably a good idea to tell them 1, 2, 3, or 4 are the options. We can then define the first number. This is going to be the first number that we're passing in through that X value. So we'll call this one num1. If you want to call it number X or number Y, that might be a bit easier for you. Feel free to do so. And we're going to set this as a float. So last time when we were dealing with numbers, we did integers, which represent whole numbers. Floats are numbers that have decimal values. When we're doing things like division, it's a really good idea to make sure that we have decimals, or if someone wants to add 1.5 to 3.5, etc. We need to be able to handle those decimal values. So this is why we use a float. Then we're going to be grabbing the user's input here. So we're going to use our input keyword. We're going to add another set of brackets, and this is where we're going to be presenting them with a string and asking them to enter your first number. And if we really want to, we can actually just save some time here and just copy and paste. Change this to be num2, and we can say enter your second number. So we're going to be presenting the user with 4 different options they can choose from. We're then going to be storing their choice based off that input, as well as asking them for the first number and their second number that are going to be used in these functions we've defined above. So now let's handle the user choices with conditionals in order to perform calculations based on the user input, based on the function they chose and the numbers they've provided. So we can use our good friend if and else if statements for this one. So we can say if choice equals 1. So something we have to do instead of just having the number 1 here is we have to use our little apostrophe on our keyboard. And then we're going to put our number within that single line apostrophe. So in the case that the user selects number 1, we can see here that we made that addition. Let's go ahead and print. We're going to use our F, and then we're going to add our string. I'm going to say the result is, and we're going to use our braces, so those curly brackets, and we're going to call upon our function. And the way we do this is we say add, so that is the name of the function here, and then within the arguments we're going to add our brackets here. We can even see that suggesting what we're going to be inputting. So let's go ahead and grab the first number, and then we'll separate it just like we have in the function, and then we'll provide it with the second number. So if the user chooses number 1, it's going to go ahead and print the result by running the function and adding those 2 numbers together. Cool, let's go ahead and handle the cases for everything else. So else if, ELIF, the choice equals, we're gonna use our apostrophe for number 2 here. Go ahead and print, we'll use our F and our string. The result is curly braces for our function, subtract, then we're gonna do num1, comma, space, num2. Awesome, let's go ahead and handle the else if choice equals, let's do 3, which I believe was multiplication. Print. The result is, go ahead and do our multiply, num1, comma, num2. Then we'll handle our choice of the number 4. Because of our if statement, we need to be sure that we're handling this one with a little bit of extra care. So in this case, we're going to instead have a result, and we're going to have this equal the divide num1 by num2, and then we're going to go ahead and print the result is, and then we're going to go ahead and pass through the result. So we're using extra caution with our error handling because of the case where people might want to divide by 0. And then at the very end, if nobody has selected one of the proper options of 1 through 4, let's add a final else statement here, and we'll go ahead and print to them that it's invalid input. Please choose options. Let's do 1, 2, 3, or 4. Awesome, so we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and run the program in Visual Studio Code, and let's go ahead and demonstrate each of these options here. So let's first go through our addition. So I'm going to select the number 1, and it's going to say enter your first number. So let's go ahead and do 7. And for our second number, let's go ahead and do 20. So we can see our result is 27.0. Now, because it is a float, whenever it's printing, even though the number is just 27, because it's a float, it's always going to have a decimal number attached to it. All right, let's go ahead and run this again. All right, our choice, let's do subtraction. Let's do a weird number. And we'll go into the negatives. Let's do 10 minus, for our second number, let's go ahead and do 45.3. You can see that we have our result. That is indeed correct. Let's just quickly do multiplication. Run our program once more. To number 3, and let's do 600 times 5,000.45. We get our number. It's a float. It can be handled for all those cases. Wonderful. Now for our division, let's go ahead and try to divide by 0 to make sure that our error handling is working properly. So let's take the number 10. So let's choose number 4, division, do 10 divided by 0. We get the result, error cannot divide by 0. Perfect. And let's just double check real quick that our division just works normally. So option 4, we're going to divide 10 by 5. We get the number 2.0, which is correct. Awesome. So today we saw how Python functions and conditionals make our code cleaner, reusable, and easier to manage. You've also learned very basic error handling, an essential skill in programming. And just for testing, let's go ahead and get rid of our if statement here. So I'm just going to comment it off with the hashtag. And let's run our program one more time. Let's then choose division, and we'll do 10 divided by 0. Ooh, we get some errors in our console. If this was running in real time, it would pause and crash. Not great for the user experience. Awesome job. Next time, we'll create a text adventure game introducing more Python skills. Don't forget to subscribe and share your comments or questions below. See you next time. And remember, dream big, code bigger.